Turbos are cool, but I love superchargers. That was my MX-5. I supercharged it a few years ago. It absolutely sings. I just adore the sound of a supercharger whining, but it's not on very many cars these days. Today I'm going to talk to you about 5 cars that cost less than £10,000 that all come standard with superchargers. Let's get straight into it. Hit the like button if you like this kind of content. Subscribe as well if you're new. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. JLR are one of the main culprits for making supercharged cars even through to today, and the Range Rover Sport is a great example of this, with its 4.2 litre supercharged V8 which produces 385 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 7.2 seconds. Not bad for an SUV of its size, which isn't really focused on going fast. Instead, its performance is based on its luxury and waftability. This first generation Range Rover Sport is actually one of the cheapest routes into luxury car ownership, considering when these were new they were almost £100,000 adjusted for inflation. This becomes more terrifying when you realise that these are not known to be very reliable, with supercharger issues, ECU issues and oil leaks, and even when you get an expensive car cheap, you still have expensive car maintenance and repair costs attached. Ignoring the reliability on this though, having been in one, it is quite a nice place to be, even if they are starting to show their age. The post-2009 facelift examples in particular look much more modern in my opinion, as it's unlikely that you'll get one of the post-2012 facelift models for our price range. I still think the 2009 model is a happy medium in terms of value for money, and genuinely on release this car was pretty revolutionary, based on the very pretty Range Stormer concept and blessed with some great tech like the terrain response system, and if you went for the HST model you got some pretty good looks too with the more aggressive overall stylings. It was also a bit of a surprise as Land Rover were owned by BMW at the time, who didn't originally plan on making a car that would compete with their X5 until this came along. Ropey examples start at around £3,000 and £10,000 will get you a 2006 model with around 80,000 miles on it. Next up we have the first generation new Mini Hatch John Cooper Works, which came with a 1.6 litre supercharged inline-4 engine which produces 210 brake horsepower, taking it from 0 to 60 in 6.4 seconds. Not bad for a warm hatch. This was the first time we saw a JCW appear, and it was initially an additional tuning package added on to the Mini Cooper S after purchase, so you would literally have to buy your Mini and have the kit retrofitted at your local Mini dealership or at JCW's headquarters in West Sussex. From 2005 this changed and you could finally have your JCW kit attached from factory, but that's still 2 years worth of retrofitting what should have been a standard pack all the way. A cool bit of history though. The original JCW kit came with an uprated cylinder head, 11% reduction of the supercharger pulley size, colder temperature range spark plugs, uprated exhaust, remapped ECU and of course the JCW badging throughout, so it was genuinely more focused on performance than it was on aesthetics. Once it switched to being a factory option, it also got uprated injectors, a different ECU to accommodate those new injectors, an uprated air intake system and some proof of JCW-ness in the form of 2 certificates, which are actually becoming increasingly important today to show the cars are actually officially original JCWs. Either way, this is the car that gained Cooper S's the title of go-kart for the roads, with reviewers and owners really enjoying owning them. If you go on track days, you're almost certain to run into at least a Cooper S, if not a JCW, for those famous dynamics. You'll find it's listed anywhere from around £2,000, making it the cheapest car on the list, with £10,000 easily getting you a nice example from 2004 with 50,000 miles on it. In third on the list we have the Mercedes CL55 AMG from the era of Merc where compressors, otherwise known as superchargers, were the name of the game. There were loads of supercharged Mercedes out at the time. The CL55 is a particularly cool one in my opinion, with its 5.4 litre supercharged V8 engine which makes 360 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 5.8 seconds, which isn't setting the world alight by today's Grand Tourer standards, but not bad. Now while the S-classes are typically the flagship models for Mercedes, the CL class was considered the premier model by the brand, with its focus on being a luxury Grand Tourer, being uniquely styled and being pretty rapid in AMG spec. It was actually built in the S-Class's platform too, which is why Mercedes considered it as their premier model. It's less a chauffeur car and more a driver's car. Being on the S-Class platform also means it got the best of technology Mercedes had to offer at the time, which was definitely a good thing at the time, but does mean more systems to go wrong on the car today. That engine was the M113 compressor featuring Teflon coated rotors and was used across all the AMG 55 models only ever mated to the 5-speed auto box, as the 7-speed couldn't handle the amount of torque it produced. In fact, many enthusiasts were left disappointed when Mercedes dropped the engine for the naturally aspirated V8 that followed, because it lost that low-end grunt, which is what the Supercharger was renowned for, though now of course those NA V8s are known as a thing of beauty. These start at around £7,000, with £10,000 getting you a 2003 model with pretty high mileage. They do have some known problems though, including the active body control system leaking, hydraulic fluid, crankshaft position sensor failure, oil leaks, and a few build quality problems too. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you are, a quick reminder, do hit like, I'd really appreciate it. 1,000 likes and I make the same video again at a different price range instead. And let me know in the comments down below what your favourite supercharged car ever is. I mentioned that JLR are known for their superchargers, and we've already done the LR, so it's time for the J. In this case, the Jaguar S-Type R, which is a proper super saloon from the early 2000s, thanks to its 4.2 litre supercharged V8 engine, making 400 brake horsepower and managing 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds. It's genuinely unreasonable to consider this car alongside the standard Jaguar S-Type, as they are basically two completely different cars. It not only looks more aggressive, though in a sleeperish way, it got a bunch of performance features to make it handle entirely differently to the standard car, much sharper than you might expect for an executive saloon. But Jaguar had to bring their A game in order to compete with the BMW M5 and Mercedes E55 AMG, and though both of those cars were faster and sold best in the Jag overall, the Jag is probably the one with the most intrigue today. Everyone knows what an M5 or E-Class AMG is. The S-Type R is something a bit different, meaning you might get a bit more interest by fellow car people. What makes this car particularly good on this list though is the Eaton Supercharger, which is known to whine relatively loudly. If like me you like supercharger whine, it's definitely a good choice for that. I actually have an Eaton on my MX-5, as you heard. It absolutely screams. £4,000 is the minimum that you'll need to spend to get into one of these, and £10,000 will get you a 2002 model with around 60,000 miles on it. It's not great on fuel economy, averaging between 16 to 80 miles per gallon in general, and there are known supercharger, cooler header tank, and water leak issues. There are also multiple software updates to be aware of as well. Taking the top spot, we have the Audi S5, which actually received two engines, one being the 4.2 litre V8, but for this video, the much more relevant 3 litre supercharged V6 engine, it produces 328 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 5.2 seconds, so even though it's not the most powerful car on the list, it's helped by the fact that it's all-wheel drive. So weirdly, the coupe got the V8, while the convertible and four-door coupe got the supercharged V6, even though both had very similar power output in the end. After 2012, the coupe followed suit and got the V6 as well, which was partly driven by the fuel economy argument, as the V6 was generally better from that perspective. It also got a slight facelift with more angular lines, and blacked out trim becoming a more common option. Now of course it's not as aggressive as the RS5, which was supposed to compete with the M3, but it's definitely up there against its own competitors like the twin-turbo 335i. I would say the Audis are pretty underrated versus the BMWs, given the level of performance and how unique they are having superchargers in the modern day. Plus it was actually quite practical versus its competitors on release, with 455 litres of boot space, perfect for people that need to take family around or people that like playing golf. Add on the performance focused interior, which is a bit more premium than your average Audi, and you're laughing in one of these. These start at around £8,000, with £10,000 getting you a 2011 example with around 100,000 miles on the clock. Thermostats, engine oil consumption, water pumps, and coil packs offer the most common problems on these, and some are much easier to deal with than others. Thank you very much for watching this video, I do really appreciate it, and a massive thanks to the patrons for their continued support. As I said, let me know in the comments what your favourite supercharged car ever is, and hit the like button and subscribe for 2 videos every single week. And finally, if you want to see some turbocharged cars instead of supercharged cars, then click up here and subscribe down here.